Any large logos in the banking space, in the FMCG space, etc. We also have Manisha. So she is again co-founder and chief revenue officer of SuperProcure. It's an end-to-end TMS with multi-enterprise collaboration. Again, some names like JSW Steel, Ultratech, etc. Any large customers, so we'll have some thoughts coming from her. Then we have Vijay. Vijay represents and is the founder of Neurofin. Again, AI-based company more towards streamlining the validation of secured loans, and good large customers like Tata Capital, Muthoot Finance, AU Small Finance Bank, etc. Then we have Sunil from TreZix. Streamlining the overall exim space. Again, JSW, RPG Group, Tata Chemicals, so many large customers. So we'll go through various aspects. I think the protocol will follow is that I might shoot a question to one of you, but then any of you have some very interesting points, please feel free. I mean, we have 2 mics here, so So one of the things related to getting an entry or dealing with a large enterprise is to begin with identifying the right person. Who is it in the large enterprise setup which will give you, who would be the person who you should be going to, right? And it's always the most tricky thing to kind of crack, right? So maybe Manisha, if you want to start talking about how do you identify that? What is the magic behind that? Is there something? I just keep doing a trial and error thing. What works?
So when talking of a large enterprises, what we have actually experienced, it's not a single person that you need. There is one person whom you would need, who is the person who is ready to influence everything, go and talk to people about what you are doing. You also need to identify which department in that organization actually has the budget to invest into your product. Like a lot of time what we have seen is you have got the right champion, you have got the right business user, everything aligned, but he is not the person who has the budget. Like might be the marketing team has the budget and you need to define it like that. So that is one other aspect of it. And of late what has started happening, which we did not see I think 1.5 years ago, most of these large enterprises have started having a digital, like I'll say, division itself. So whenever it comes to any new kind of digitization or AI related stuff, this is the team which is actually evaluating. It is no longer the business team. The business team can give definitely that this is the use case, but it is no longer the IT team also, but this digitization team which is taking up initiatives like us. So for us, what has worked is always having combination of 2 to 3 people, definitely someone who likes to take the challenge and take your name, is not scared to say SuperProcure in front of SAP or Blue Yonder, that plunge, and the one who has the budget. These are the 2 people, very, very important.
You have to go about this. Right?
Both of them are important.
Any other thoughts?
So, for sure what she said, but there are more angles to it. There is more an enabler, there is a gatekeeper. So if I talk about a larger bank, one actually said exactly who is the buyer, who is paying for it. But who's the enabler? Because I have to go via IT, I have to go via the business and technology group. So those becomes a bigger problem, and among them there could be different politics within it. So for the persona, for sure, where do you start with and how the relationship of that persona with others really matters. There are places where the business and technology group is better placed to get me in. So I will yet keep them on my radar. But some places the sales head will also be important. So I will go across.
So there is no one person in a nutshell that you have to, surround an enterprise with multiple people who will kind of enable it for you.
And I think with that I would like to add, need to identify where is the biggest pain area, who is going through the big pain. I think that's your ICP. to enter with solutions like us, where you have everybody who gets into from a large enterprise perspective, maybe finance, logistics, supply chain. You need to really see who is being hammered a lot. I think that becomes your enabler and that becomes your ICP, because all these will have their own budgets to look at, to basically, evaluate a product and to take care of the problem. But I think that's where your cookie cutting starts. Because if you get across all, then obviously your deal cycles will go for, larger timelines.
I mean, that's great. So another thing which we all, go through as startups is that, we have a great product solving a problem. How do we inspire the trust with a large enterprise that, go bank on this product and, your life will be easy, right? That this will really solve. You should, I mean, in a way for a large enterprise, putting a startup's product in the critical path of its operation is a risk in itself, right? And so how do startups like ours, how do you cross that chasm? Maybe you can talk about it.
So I think for startups like us, it's also a journey, right? So when we started our first ever client, we actually went to the extent of saying that we are happy to escrow our code if you want it, right? Because if I die tomorrow, your product should come to standstill, right? But now obviously we moved from that stage. Now showing that we are funded, telling some of the banks actually ask for P&L and balance sheet, right? Sharing those numbers, I think that gives them a confidence that you can bank tomorrow, right? So that is one, but that is not enough to sell, right? The other thing you have to, I think in our case that works a lot is talking the language, right? So basically when I tell them that we do operations automation, is not enough. But the moment I tell them that 50% of your volume comes from last 2 days of the month, they're like, yeah, this guy understands my problem. Right? This guy exactly knows what I'm going through. Right? So for me, operations is not a problem for the entire month. It is a problem for last 2 months. Right? So how do I solve it? Right? So if he knows my problem, he should be able to solve it. Right? So rather than talking their language and telling them that you are here for a long term goes a long way. Right? And that is basically building on top of it.
So I think brass tacks, if you are a startup, you've never experienced large enterprise, there are amazing amount of difficulties. The first is go to friends and family. If you still don't have, then look for influencers who can really influence, because in large enterprise, building that trust takes a lot of time, number one. And immediately, even if you talk their language, it will only be 25% of the trust they'll build in the product, not in you. So at the end of the day, they're looking at both the things. They're looking at the company, they're looking at people, and they're looking at the product. Now, if you have, as I said, if you know people, go to friends and family, establish your product, because your product will go through a lot of evolution in large enterprise, right? It's not gonna be a straight fit jacket over there. Build those use cases, and then you're ready to go, in the large install base of large enterprise. And if you don't have that, then look for those influencers who have influence, on those CIOs, CFOs, who can take you for initial conversation, bestow their trust in you and the product.
I actually don't agree on that much, right? So basically, I think it's always the person, right? So when I'm talking to anyone, if I'm going to build trust in that conversation, then they talk about company, then they talk about product, right? So basically, first they want to like you. Once they like you, they'll ask you if your company is there for the long term. And basically, when they like you, it automatically means that they understand that you understand their pain point, and then comes the product, right? So the first client that we backed was probably even before we had our domain registered, right? So we got the company registered. We spoke to them, spoke in the same language. We told them that we are new. We told them that we don't have a full product, but this is what we want to do. They were not our design partners, right? They said, if you can build it out, I'll buy, right? And then we built it out in the bot, right? So I think if you build that personal trust, even if it is not friends and family, it works really, really good.
I'll just add one thing. So in our initial days, what worked for us, So just when we started, we got incubated under AM Calcutta. So the first word we started with is incubated under AM Calcutta, and they did not question us more. कि अगर उन्होंने evaluate किया तो अच्छा ही होगा. मतलब that is something which really worked. We did not never thought that this is a marketing thing that we'll do, but we saw this get a lot of trust. One more thing like which has worked for us, like I exactly had an experience like this. So the first client that we onboarded was Tata Consumer in our product. Just be transparent to them. We told them that what you are seeing is just the slides. Don't even have money to build that. But if you give it, what you get is you get a product which is better suited to your use case, because every enterprise will have their own use case. So that is your win for it. And for me, I have a team which is ready to give the inputs to have a much stronger product. So that is where we started. But today when we stand, like there was a period when like we did get questions. There are clients like people in your space getting funded $50 million and all, and what are you all doing? How much will you sustain and all? There people did ask us, can you give your code? And I think there is one founder which had taught us, and in fact I have a slide which tells that okay, in case we are not being able to service you or we don't survive, these are the 4 courses you can take. It even had a line saying that we'll be giving you the code and just allow us to, like, we can act as resellers, like if you want to, we can train your team. No one asks those questions to us now. So now even that time Calcutta is not working, but if you are going to a client, the first thing is like that email should have that 1 or 2 names which is very similar to his scale. If similar industry, even better, and then like it happens. But this IIM Calcutta thing really clicked for us.
In the beginning. So,
Exact points of hers, I think she covered most. Free POCs, be open to them, because if a new big customer is going to bet on you, they might want to try. So we have seen that doing some POC that maybe semi-invested, partially invested free, be okay with them. I've seen those work very well. Referenceable customers of a very similar domain, those have worked well for us, because if I tell a X company, a very similar company is getting these benefits, I can get you connected on the phone with the person, they'll vouch for us. That is the door.
okay. So, this thing happens with us as investors many times. We have this practice of going through monthly, MIS and monthly results, and every time you talk about the projections. Okay, these 2 deals are closing next month, so you will have this revenue showing up in our books next month. And next month, oh, you know what? They got delayed by 1 more month because there's something happening. So this is one of the packages with large enterprises that deals do take time to close. So what I want to focus on, as the next point is, how do you navigate these things? What in your experience works really in terms of trying to expedite it, or is it that look, it takes what it takes, the only solution is to spawn multiple threads, so some thread or the other will be closing at that time. But your first-hand experience of what helps the most, how big a beast procurement is, how big a beast compliance is, are all these things, is their main motto in life to make your life difficult, or how do you understand them, how do you work with them? Some thoughts on those lines. Anybody? Yeah.
See, for us, what we have understood is there are 5 stages. So one is when you are interacting with a client, you will definitely get to know that they are still at a place where they are making a business case. So that first management approval has still not come. Now, this client can be the IT team, the digital team, or the business team, but this is the business case time. Then, once that business is approved, the broad management understanding has come. That is where they next go to the stage where they are actually evaluating vendors. But what I have learned, if you are there in the first stage, that means that while the deal will take a longer, but you have 80% win already done, because the business case is built on what your product is. And after that, comes, if it was the IT team earlier, then the business team will come, procurement will definitely come, the security will come. So once you've identified that these are the 3 or 4 people which will always come in every large deal that I go for, Lot of time what we have been able to do in order to shorten the cycles, as soon as we have some relationship with someone, we start telling them, sir, देखिए security वाले तो आएंगे ना, parallelly start करा दो, आपका क्या जा रहा है. So this parallel threads have allowed us to shorten that cycle, and now this larger companies like, people might laugh, but we got the LOI from ArcelorMittal in January 24, and the PO came in November 24. So, which is, but that is how the documentation can take time, right? So there are broadly 3 or 4 types of documents, which depending on whatever like your product is, you will get to know. This can also be parallelly started. So nothing much you can do to influence the timelines, but this parallel thread is only what has worked for you.
Parallel.
I think what is workful is removing the friction, right? So what we do is, let's say if a client says we want to do a POC, we don't even sign a document, right? If the client says I want to sign an NDA, we sign it. We don't, on NDA we never give a pushback, never ever, right? Because they are the ones who are sharing the data, right? So we don't even say it should be a mutual NDA, right? Because we know that the kind of organizations we are dealing with, it is very unlikely that they will breach trust, right? And at the same time, they need a comfort from you that you want, right? So basically, remove the friction as much as possible. The second is keep moving, right? So basically, like I said, no agreement for POCs, right? So from POC, move to the pilot. The difference is POC will be not integrated, pilot will be integrated. Try to bring in commercials at pilot stage, right? And from pilot, then move to the integrations, move to the infosec. Right? So basically, try to get client so invested in you, right? That if they say no, they feel hurt, right? So basically, and therefore it is important to have the champion on the client side, who's basically helping you navigate. Because while every org will have similar titles, every title across the orgs has different powers, right? So basically, therefore it's very important that you have a champion, you have multiple conversations, and just remove the friction, right? So every time client says that this is something we are trying to figure out, help them to resolve it, right? So if someone says that, so in our case, checklist is something which is very important that we need to get from the client. Samples is something very important we need to get from the client, right? So the moment client says that for samples I have to set up an SFTP, what we do is instead of setting up, because SFTP setting up takes a month, right? Some orgs it will take you 2 months because multiple levels of workflows. What we do is we tell them that anyways you have an NDA, right? This is my platform. Get this whitelisted, upload the documents here, right? So when you upload the documents there, it will not give you results, but I'll be able to get the samples, right? So basically try to do those things where your friction is reduced and people have to take the least number of approvals internally.
So I think we're still grappling with that. Having come from large enterprise, sold in large enterprise, but yes, we still grapple, with that. I think what has worked and what is working for us is largely a little clarity. So I'll give you a small example that, we used to go and overwhelm the customer by giving him the demo of the product without even understanding where are the pain areas, how do we showcase that, how do we crystallize that. While, as he said, you should have an executive sponsor, which is very important because that's the person who's going to drive. Because once you have a holistic or an end-to-end kind of a solution where you have different departments, being entrusted because it is solving problems for all of them, it becomes a large boardroom in terms of convincing people. So clarity in terms of, obviously everybody does the whole BAT analysis and everything, but I think clarity in terms of how it's going to move, right? Do you really need to involve everybody now? So involve them now so that once there is one component agreed, it should not be that 3 more components coming. It's going to delay your side. So I think that's what has been working for us in terms of clarity and a close plan with the executive sponsor, that how it's going to pan out in terms of the whole closure, what's going to get required. Very small things like, registering your vendor registration. It might just come to you at the last moment and it will take another 2 months, right? So all those components, so we create a checklist in terms of this is how we should really, work into the account, get to first understand what the customer needs, not that what we are selling. So I think that's helping us. But I would say we're still trying, we're still throwing as many things in terms of seeing what will work, what will not work.
One addition from me, more from a overall thing. So process-wise, absolutely I agree, panel, that who all will come at what stage. If I were to finish this, what does this mean? Will there be 3 rounds of procurement? Will procurement and legal happen in parallel? Will the vendor registration come? When will security people come? I think we all are there. But in terms of hurdles, my take is that some hurdles are required. So let's say we spoke about legal. I would want a mutual NDA as far as possible. I will not stop the process for that. Yes, I might insist on it. Similarly, going into the POC, I would want to sound off that this is gonna charge you X lakh rupees. Don't tell me you tomorrow believe this is 10,000 rupees. So I would want to sort of the commercial to make sure that we are talking at the same plane. We are not planes apart. If I can charge a little bit for the POC, not that it will cover my costs. It could be 10,000 rupees, but somebody has to create a PO. They have to explain to somebody. They better be serious about it. That yes, I have to pay this much. Somebody will ask them, what is the KPI? What happened? What's the outcome? I would want that thought to be serious from them. I am willing to invest 2-3% months in it, but the seriousness has to be. So that would be mine.
Yeah, I'll also agree with him. We did a lot of free POCs earlier, but now we have stopped doing it because once it is a free, it's not only about seriousness, it's about no one in the larger aspect even knowing that there was something that was happening somewhere. And at least even that 10,000 means ki vendor registration is done, your NDA is signed, all of that is done before you put in the larger chunk. So we go for paid POCs. NDA and all, like we are also a little flexible in the sense that what we have done is, I'll tell you the process also how we have gone so that we are in between both of them. So what we did is once we took out the 4 NDAs which took the longest time for us to actually close, and we took out which are the points where we are resisting and how difficult it is for a client to sign on that. Then we did away with that, okay, if someone is telling we let it go, but this too we will not compromise on. Mostly it comes to liability, like unlimited liability is something which is a strict no that we'll never sign anything which has unlimited liability. So just 2 points that we stick to, otherwise we have become flexible. So something in between both of them.
Correct.
Yeah. Indemnities you have to be very sure about, right? Please, just coming to POC, right? So POC, I'm sure we all have heard, paid POCs obviously yield better results versus free POCs, and that also varies from industry to industry, right? So like in fintech right now, if you go to any bank, they're probably running 30 POCs. They're not paying anybody else. They won't pay, right? So what we try to do is we have defined a POC, right? So it's not what you give me and I'll build it. This is how my POC looks like. This is probably 40% of the total work that you want us to do. But this is a good test, test run. So like you go to a halwai, right? He won't give you all the sweet that you want. He just give you a piece of everything. Right? So basically, we try to build that. If you like it, beyond that, whatever you want, that agreement, commercials, everything has to be in place. Right? So POCs our POCs are like very quick. But beyond that, if anybody wants you to do anything additional, you start charging.
So moving on to a very different dimension now. I mean, in the evolution of a startup, right, and when you're selling to enterprises, one step is to see how you can sell through reselling partners, through alliance partners, through technology integrators. So, your question, maybe we'll start with you on, what has been your experience? How effective is it?
So,
things like that, and then others can also.
So I started working with a Microsoft reseller. So I've seen that how it really works. Then I worked with a distributor of Informix. And then obviously I worked with Oracle and SAP, right? So I think when we started our company, we actually knew what will work for us by the kind of solution we are selling. Channels, which was reselling and distribution, did not make sense because it is something more to do with articulation of how the pain, how it is taking care of the pain of the customer, right? It's more consultant selling. And the first 2 years, we just wanted to, relate to all the OEMs. do a SAP store, do a Oracle store, do a AWS marketplace, right? Do all this stuff, which basically acts as a PR for you, because everybody knows, or you have some kind of a relationship which you are integrating back, right? Because obviously you're integrating to these kind of larger solutions, and you're in the play of those larger solutions because you have something which these guys have not done or not doing, and you are a new solution on top of that. So we did that, and then we started working on which are the alliances, because I would say for our kind of solution, alliances, strategic alliances are the most important which works. So the likes of Deloitte, right? We started working with one Big Four because we know that they are more advisory and they are looked at from a customer standpoint as an advisory to a lot of pains which are created in global trade management, the solution we have, right? And that's where we started building the whole relationship, and we signed up an agreement with Deloitte. So you have to see your place, because I have seen that SaaS, the channels, the dealers, distributors don't work because they are looking at something which is moving fast, right? If you look at after so many years now, AWS is coming on a distribution model just to give more discounts, right, to their customers, and moving the whole cycle of payment from their own bucket to the distributors. So you have to see what works for you, but initially you will have to create that pull, right, with whatever it is, strategic alliances or distribution you really work with, because they will feed on you. Once you are mature, and this is something you'll have to keep in your mind, right? If you say, I've signed with LinkedIn today and he will distribute my license, solution, it will never happen, right? So first those 50, 25 to 50 deals, you will really have to excite them that there is revenue. If you have something which is a little more towards implementation, right, it's going to excite those, system integrators to really sell the solution, but largely feed their companies on, doing implementation or doing beyond implementation. So that's the mix you have to look at. That is number one. Number three is your OEMs, right? You have to relate to the OEMs initially to be credible in the market, right? But then you have to see how much you have to adopt their technology, because they'll get you in that, trap of, why don't you use BTP for integration? Why don't you use ABCD for this? So you have to really think how you need to be different and aligned, right? So that's the strategy. And, people who are in fintech and all, obviously, when you tie up with banks or you mutually grow. So that's another strategic alliance for a mutual growth. So you'll have to see where it is. But the bottom line for SaaS, your dealers and distributors, they don't actually work.
Excellent. Any other thoughts?
My 2 cents, I agree with him. So, see, if it's a cookie cut product with a standard product sheet, which anybody can go and say, this is how you work, more or less self-deployed, and it's only about relationship, your distributors and everything will typically work. For a customized SaaS with a consultative selling, it has not worked for us. We have to really sell, we have to paint a picture, we have to say how it comes together. None of the second round of people, the dealers, are able to do that. So it doesn't come together. But what has worked is if I'm going in a geography like Mexico where I cannot converse with them. But at least if I am making sense, my person can do that. Having that person in the room, that has helped us. But direct selling via these people has not worked. Going by the Big Four, the consultative people who know the problem statement and push us, that has helped us a lot. If we are at the right place with the right problem statement and EY is pushing us, we'll get a far quicker deal, quick legal, and even a better price. That's been our experience.
Excellent. So, the other aspect, last 12 to 18 months, what has been a notable change which you have seen in this whole phenomena of selling to large enterprises? I think Manisha mentioned something about that there's a new department which looks at latest tech adoption or something like that. So that I don't think was there earlier. Right? Anything else that you've noticed that this is something which I'm seeing which I would not have imagined earlier?
So for fintech, a lot of things have changed, right? So digital in fintech in banks was there for last 3-4 years.
Mhm.
Now they have AI champions, right? So AI champion may not report to the digital head, may not report to the CTO, right? But will roll into the CTO. And so CTOs also right now roll into the CTO, and now the AI champion also rolls into the CTO. The other thing is earlier, and this may not be directly linked to the sales, but sales cycle definitely, right? Uh, Earlier, InfoSec was very important, has always been important. Now it is extremely critical, right? So what I mean is earlier they will basically ask you to share the evidence, right? And basis that there will be a form, you fill it up. They will ask you a couple of questions, 2-3 hour call, and mostly you'll get through it, right? Now some of these guys have third party agencies who come and assess it, and they come to your office and assess it, right? Some of these guys basically have the list, which was earlier say 2 pager, now is probably 6 pager, right? And the CISOs are getting involved directly. Earlier CISOs 1 down, 2 down, 3 down, probably one of those guys will get involved, or ITD will get involved. Because now the risk is not only at our layer, right, which is basically all the information coming to us, but now there are 2 layers. One is the LLM layer, and then us, right? So therefore, they need to make sure that both the things are kosher. And also from the RBI side, there's a lot more pressure on the data security, DPDP coming in, right? So the questions around InfoSec are now driving us crazy, right? So I think these are the two major changes. One is AI champions coming in terms of one more stakeholder, right? And InfoSec becoming a lot more thicker.
So I think two important things, and I've personally experienced that. One is the whole conversation in the board about AI native products and startups has really done wonders. I think because of the kind of exposure, because of the kind of narrative, all these startups are bringing in. I think that's been now becoming everybody's conversation. So I've seen one of the steering committee meetings. I've seen in some of the board meetings where questions been asked what we are doing on AI, how are we making our people's life easier. At the end of the day, you're transforming an organization and you're transforming people's life, right? So that is becoming important. So that's where there is, I would say, if I look at 3 years back and if I look at now, the acceptability of startups in enterprise is becoming much more, right? Either you go to the digital or you go to the manufacturing, you go to the finance, you go to the CFO. Everybody has some agenda to bring something new which transforms the organization. So that is becoming real important. If I say, if I take example of, our world, which is the, global trade management, I think people have had enough, of spending nights in terms of collaborating with, customs, collaborating with all. When they see everything coming on one platform and there's the whole time to process shrinks, everybody wants to have a pie of it. So I think the big is that now this has become a board discussion in terms of getting that disruption and efficiency. So largely, when I go to US and meet customers and when I see how it is trickling to India, 3 things are very important. I know we've been all harping about cost savings. Now people are seeing how it is getting realized. So they're getting more aggressive onto that. Efficiency has never been on top of our chart, right? Oh, theek hai. India mein you have, people who are cheap. No more, right? We are competing globally. So no more if you think India is cheaper, it is not. It's a myth now. So they are also now looking at how do we, become more efficient. Can I grow from 10 billion to 30 billion with the same people? With new tools and technology coming in? Yes, that's the answer. And the third most important thing is who carries the single source of truth? How do we collaborate with all our stakeholders on one platform so that everybody works with one single source of truth and, we are not desperate in terms of different stakeholders. So this is the agenda which is there at every enterprise board and being discussed on every quarter basis. So I think that is changing, I would say, a lot of acceptability of startups into the enterprise.
Anything, Deepak?
One addition from my end. So surely security outlook towards startups, completely agree. They, on the contrary, want to come on the call and hear from us, learn from us. That, okay, what's new? What are you doing? What's the industry doing? Am I lagging behind? And what are their peers doing? It's a huge angle for them that what are my peers doing? Am I lagging behind? Is there a newer thing in the market which I am missing? And one angle is from procurement that the purse strings are tightened. People actually want to monthly POs also. They are so careful and every rupee spent and every month is getting revisited. Nobody wants to give you a 5-year contract. There are large banks giving me monthly POs and yearly contracts. I'll be happy if I get a yearly PO. That also is coming.
Excellent, excellent. So, great thoughts on selling to large enterprises. Maybe to end with, let me put you all in the spot, okay? And I'll ask you a question, which I have been doing, but this is a different question. If you were to correlate to selling to large enterprises with a sport, what sport comes to your mind? With a sport. Do you think selling to large enterprises is more like playing cricket? Do you think it is more like a marathon? Do you think more like swimming? What do you think selling to large enterprises is like?
So I can give you an example of what I've used in SAP.
Okay.
Right. So we use cricket actually. Now that is more. See, what happens is you go and we realize that we used to go and meet the CXOs, but the people who are using our software, we were never used to meet them. No, there used to be surveys. I don't know who used to fill it, right? So what we did is we used cricket, and if CXOs don't play with the leather ball, they play with the soft ball, right? Well, they can be hard hitting when they are in a boardroom. So what we started is we started leagues across different cities with the user groups, right? So they used to form a team and all that. Two things happened. One is camaraderie. Second is the feedback, and third is our deal cycle started, becoming faster. Because now they knew that, and we used to do it quite often, right? Those leagues, and that's where. And then what we did on top of that, we did a softball with CXOs. So we covered the whole angle through cricket, and obviously we used to expose our executives, our team members, and it became a family, that kind of stuff. So we used cricket at that point in time.
What you're talking about is how did you use a sport to help you sell to the enterprises?
Exactly.
My question is a little more of what analogy you use selling to large enterprises. What sport analogy is it? What type of sport?
I would still say cricket.
Cricket.
Test match cricket, not T20. Test match, not T20.
It all depends how you're really, it can be a T20 one day and test match.
All formats. I think it's more like a tournament, not one single sport, right? So basically, you clear one round, go to the next round, you clear that round, you go to the next round, right? So basically, I think it's more of a tournament.
It's a tournament of any sport.
Any sport, right? So basically, every round the stakes get higher and higher, right? And towards the end, the probability is much higher, right? But the stakes are also so high because you played for so long, right?
So,
I can't relate it to sales, but just yesterday there was a discussion where my implementation team came up with कि मैम ये तो बताइए आपने बेचा क्या था तो I just told them कि Kulvinder ji, it will not matter for you to go to the client and just hear the recording that what we had told and what we had sold. Just think of this as a yoga thing that I am the mother. I have hired the yoga teacher to her. So her sales has happened to me. But what she really needs to do is ensure my daughter does that yoga classes every day persistently because everything is clear. Definitely benefit आएगा. पैसे देने में ready हूँ. जब तक आप करा सकते हो दे दोगे. So it is on to the implementation team to make that yoga thing happening every morning. Nothing more than that. Just yesterday I used yoga as an example.
yoga as a sport.
Cricket, I think. Team on both sides. It cannot be a single person from my side or a single person from the customer side. पूरी बारात है दोनों साइड के ऊपर. बारात की जरूरत है. अगर मैं अकेले का मेरे को कस्टमर 10 बार देखेगा बोलेगा दीपक आई यू सिंगल पर्सन कंपनी. वेयर आर अदर्स? इन्फोसेक बोला दीपक आ रहा है. सेल्स बोला दीपक आ रहा है. वेयर आर अदर्स? Has to be a big team on both sides. only then they will get the call.
So when we got this AMNS ka deal, like my co-founder Anup and my CTO went. They went for all the 3 meetings. From our end, it was okay. They know the cycle. Let them go. And the next day we got a question. Acha, by chance Vatsan leaves the company. Who will deliver us? Like something like that. And next time at Sri Cements, I think we had some 8 people representing them.
हमारे पास 12th man भी है, 13th man भी है, 14th man. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Thank you on this note, and we'll all break.
I just want to add one thing. So guys, one thing which we overlook a lot, right? I hope not all of us overlook it, but every meeting that you go to, right, always record and communicate, right? So bring in people from your side, bring in people from client side, send the minutes that the client is not sent, right? Very trivial, very simple. Nowadays you have bots and everything to do it, but do it, right? Because then follow-ups become easier, right? Otherwise, if you don't record that meeting, you'll have to call people, and then calls don't get recorded, right? So I think that one simple thing is very, very effective.
There's a recording happening. We're going to circulate this. Thank you, folks. I mean, the goal is that if each one of us has at least a few takeaways out of these sessions, I think the job is done.